Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I actually had the wrong webinar open and I was sitting here waiting for everybody to pile in, and yet you guys are sitting here waiting on me. So my name is Jeff Paps. I'm Loggers Education Outreach Coordinator. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the necessary components to communicating your loggers benefit, some of the tools that Loggers has available for you at your disposal for better communicating your benefits, and then of course answer any questions that you have. So basically what we're going to cover is a lot of best practices of ways to effectively communicate one of the most valuable retention tools you have at your disposal. So questions and how are we going to ask questions, and agenda, and a couple housekeeping. So we'll go about 45 minutes today. And the agenda today, again, 45 minutes, but as far as how to ask questions, when I finally popped into the Zoom webinar, you got to see my screen. At the bottom of the screen you're viewing, there's a menu that appears that you should be able to scroll over, and there'll be a section that's called Q&A. If you click on Q&A and then you type in any questions that you have, they'll come into me and I'll answer them as they come in. And they may not necessarily be directly related to the topic or even the webinar we're talking about, but if you do have a question, please feel free to ask me. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. So when we think about loggers, a lot of times folks think about us just in the category of retirement benefits. Well, that makes sense because that's what we provide. We do provide someone an ability to exit the workforce with financial security by providing them monthly income. Okay. So the other side of that, though, is a lot of folks don't see it this way. Is Loggers really is designed to be a workforce management tool, where it's a tool that you can utilize to attract and retain and exit and promote workers within your organization. So if we're starting first with attracting quality workers, so at the end of the day, that's a topic that's at the top of a lot of our minds is how do we properly attract workers to come in and work for local government? And, I think that there's a number of different statistics that can prove that even though you may have less income working in local government, your salaries may be less. The other things that you're providing, especially with your pension plan through Loggers, provide folks with a little bit more. So when we talk about those quality workers, a couple of statistics to throw at you. 72% of Americans are willing to sacrifice pay for guaranteed retirement income. So that pretty much means that they're willing to actually take that lesser salary or contribute their salary to get guaranteed income, which is what they get with Loggers. And then the generation of folks that gets kind of the bad name for bouncing around jobs and not really caring about their financial future and things like that, the millennials. 49% of millennials say retirement benefits are a very important job factor, or a factor in job choices. So when you're trying to hire someone off the street who might be a millennial or Gen Z, retirement is important to them. Now, it may be something that's down the road that they are not thinking about right now, but it is still an important factor for employment. Another component to be thinking about, it's not a statistic that we have on the screen here, is what private sector employment provides is typically a higher salary, but no benefits. So, the key there is that, 75% of local government workers or government workers in the United States participate in some level of a defined benefit plan like Loggers. Okay. Whereas like 48% of private sector workers have any kind of retirement plan provided by their employer. So that means that a majority of Americans that are working in the private sector work for an employer that doesn't provide them with any kind of retirement plan at all. So not even a savings avenue, it's nothing. And that's part of that workforce group you're trying to recruit to come and work for you. And you're providing something that's significantly better at providing guaranteed income and providing them with financial security through a defined benefit plan. Okay, so that's a component to attracting workers. When you're interviewing folks, when you're trying to sell them on your job, because ultimately these days that's what we're doing when we're trying to employ folks, especially in this current environment where we have some shortages within the workforce. We have you have a number of ways to do this, but one of the things you could definitely hit on is the security that LAGERS provides. So you could say it's like, we have our retirement through LAGERS, and LAGERS provides you with secure income when you exit the workforce. And you could also say something like, our retirement benefit through LAGERS increases the longer you work for us. It's always going up. In other words, the markets aren't going to dictate that plan. It's going to continue to grow as they continue to work. Okay, that's attractive to folks because it adds a layer of security. There's a section of Americans that prefer to have security over other things, and those are the folks we're trying to recruit and do the work of local government. So then once you're attracting that quality worker, then you've got to incentivize them to stay. And when folks understand the value of their benefits, particularly with a pension plan like LAGERS, retention increases because there's a financial incentive for them to stay. If folks understand that if they get to the vested point or before that, especially if they understand that they don't get anything before they're vested, and then but once they get to that vested point, if they continue working, their benefit grows larger. And if they start doing a little bit of the math and they're like, okay, I could leave for $1 more an hour, but I'm leaving this significant benefit that I would be leaving on the table because as soon as I leave employment here, that it stops growing. And that's something that could definitely have a retention factor. And Americans all believe that pension plans help recruit and retain. 92% of them do. So that's, a pretty big chunk of Americans that believe that. So you're attracting the quality worker, you're incentivizing them to stay during their most productive years, and then providing the exit, providing the dignified exit, the financially secure exit. Okay. So when we talk about the exit, a lot of times when we talk about turnover, that's usually like a bad word in the HR and payroll world because turnover is expensive. However, exit at the right times is very important for an organization. If you get folks that are exiting either too early or too late, that can have an impact on your ability to recruit and retain. So, that's key. Providing that exit from the workforce is really, really important. But let's talk about some real costs that an employer will take on if workers cannot afford to retire, which LAGERS provides secure income so that they are able to afford to retire. Okay. So the average healthcare cost claims for employees above the age of 65 are $10,264 annually. Okay. That's significant dollar cost. Average sick days used by employees above the age of 65 or 15 days a year. So that's 15 days of productivity you're missing out on those employees. I'm not trying to pick on folks that are above the age of 65. I'm just stating the facts. Okay. Average workers' comp claim of those folks that are in the senior component of their career is approximate dollar cost of $7,649 and an average loss of productivity of 66 days per year. Average healthcare costs because of financial stress due to those unable to afford is another $300 per year per individual on average. So when we talk about financial stress, that's a component that LAGERS could add or could relieve if they understand how that benefit works. But I think the more driving component of a more intangible, but a very significant component to not providing the exit is the turnover of younger, talented workers. That's so the millennial generation kind of gets a bad name for bouncing around jobs. And there is some thought there, that there is some validity to that thought. But there's also some validity to the thought that the younger generations were employed into the conditions that didn't necessarily provide them with avenues in organizations to move up the ladder. Now, realistic or unrealistic of those, however those claims may be, the ability for an individual to move up through an organization, and I don't necessarily mean that they have to move up, but that there is a path upon which to move up within an organization, and you can see that path, and the exit occurs at the top so that it churns the organization and provides those lines of promotion, which is the next circle. But when that doesn't happen, when there is no churning, when the organization is top heavy, or the organization it doesn't provide any real financial incentive to stay other than a paycheck, you're going to get turnover of your younger talented workers, because those younger talented workers, they need a financial incentive to stay, but at the same time, more than just a paycheck a lot of times, but at the same time, they really need to understand that this organization is a healthy organization that allows for movement up within the organization. And in local government, that's hard. We're not talking about a whole bunch of different corporate ladder, right? Because we're talking about government work, but there are opportunities for folks to potentially move up. Just folks have to be a little bit patient, but as long as the path is there, that's likely to help. As well, productivity loss. So if you have folks that are sticking around longer than they should, the organization basically has 3 or 4 options to choose from on how to deal with that person, and none of them are really all that great. You could fire the person. That's not a great idea. You could allow them to continue working at their current salary, which could be extensively expensive if they're not as productive. You could also demote them into a lower position with lower salary, and that's also not all that great for the morale of that employee. So all those things could play in from an intangible side of things. And then keeping those lines of promotion open. So that's really, really important to understand, is that we're designed to take an organization, a person through an organization full circle, and keep that organization churning. You start with attracting, you retain during their productive years, you exit them at the right times, which keeps the lines of promotion open, which allows you to attract a quality worker because they have a financial incentive to do so, and they know there are lines of promotion. Okay, so that is specifically what LAGERS is designed to do. You can actually look back to some of our chartering documents that actually show some of these, like we're trying to attract and retain quality workers to come and serve in local government in the state of Missouri. So just be thinking about that, because that's how we're designed. That's how we're designed to operate. Okay, when communicating with your employees, there's basically a couple of different steps, or a couple of different things you could work on. First is you got to be thinking about, from the benefit sides of things, is they need to understand that just because they have LAGERS doesn't mean that they don't need to be worried about anything else or not saving for anything else. Okay, because unless a person wants to work a significant amount of time in public service, and by significant, I mean like 25, 35 years of service, unless someone wants to do that much and work that much in public service, then they're going to need to have some other savings set aside to help create more of a stable, secure retirement. But this is the old school 3-stool approach. They're going to have a benefit provided by LAGERS. It's going to provide them with a foundation that's guaranteed income that they receive for life. And they'll get Social Security later on, but they also need to have some personal savings to help stabilize that retirement security. Unless, of course, they're willing to work a very long time with a pension plan, because the longer you work in a pension plan, the larger your benefit becomes. And then if you have a large enough benefit from LAGERS plus your Social Security, your necessity for savings is less. You probably still need to have some, but the demand will be less. So that's, when you're communicating with this, when it comes to LAGERS, it's that secure foundation you need to plan upon. It's going to replace a portion of your income with guaranteed secured payments. But at the same time, when we're thinking about your future, you should start saving small and increase regularly to ensure that you're able to retire when you want to retire at the right times, and also do so with some financial security. Okay. So how to properly communicate those loggers benefits. So some words and phrases you should be using. So talk about, because security is really important, especially if folks have been watching any bit of what the stock market has done in the last 6 months, especially, but even over the history of the stock market, right? It goes up and down. You have, downturns and upturns and bear markets and bull markets, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. That's what the market does. So when you're thinking about that, if folks think about retirement in terms of a savings account, you could use phrases like, this is a protected benefit. You're going to earn, as long as you become vested, you're guaranteed to receive it. It's going to provide you with lifetime retirement income. From retirement until you pass away, you will receive a payment from this plan, and it will be your foundation towards financial independence. Financial independence is a word that a lot of folks use in the younger generations that essentially means retirement. Okay, because once you're financially independent, that means you're not working anymore. So people want personalization when we talk about communications. So when we talk personalization, I mean, of course, it's like you can, pick up your cell phone, right? And on that cell phone, pretty much everything you could potentially want is all personalized to you. It's like I've got my banking app that has my bank information on it. I've got my Nationwide app that has my Nationwide information on it. So they want all of it that's theirs, personalized, custom for them. So how do we do that? When you talk about a retirement plan that provides all these different levels of benefits, and you have a different level of benefits than someone else. First is promote Loggers annual benefit statements. We mail them directly to their primary mailing address. So we send them straight to them, and it goes to the primary mailing address with a newsletter. Okay. Encourage employees to use the My Loggers web portal. That is their portal with their information about their benefits. It's all on there. They can run estimates. They can download previous statements, all that good jazz. It's all on there. Okay. And then you can also, especially if you're requiring employee contributions, but either way, you could also reflect a total potential payout that could be utilized. We call that total value. And a tool that you have at your disposal for that, which we'll talk about in a minute, is the Loggers lunch break, where we actually break that down and show you what the total is. And then we also show the paycheck value. Okay. So when we talk about what Loggers is designed to do, when you're communicating that, we got to be communicating that we're designed to retire or to replace retirement income. And this is another component of the lunch break that we would do. So again, this is not necessarily you need to know this. It'd be good if you did and you were able to utilize it. But if you need us to assist in that with doing the lunch breaks on site for you, we're happy to do that too. Okay. So Loggers is designed to replace income. Financial planners across the industry say you need to replace somewhere between 75 to 85% of your pre-retirement income to maintain your same standard of living. So if we catch the median there, that's 80%. If your pre-retirement salary is 55,667 and you're going to get like 35-ish% of your pre-retirement income replaced by Loggers. Okay, well, as you can see, there's still a gap there. That gap's going to get filled in with those other legs of the stool. Social Security is going to provide somewhere between 25 to 40% of a person's pre-retirement income. If you don't know how that system works, the higher earner you are, the lower that percentage is. The lower the earner you are, the higher that percentage is. Okay, so that's going to provide a chunk. And then there's going to be a gap between Loggers, Social Security, and 80%. And that gap needs to be filled in with personal savings, maybe part-time income, rental income, farm income, whatever it is. Okay. To get to that 80%. And if you get to that 80%, that essentially just means that you are likely to be able to maintain your same standard of living. It doesn't mean that you're going to be happy and lucky and all this. It just means that financially you're probably going to be okay. And then let's talk about the value. So this is something that we do in the lunch break as well. And I keep talking about lunch break. It's just so you know, it's a program that LAGERS provides that you can enroll in, and we can come on site, provide your folks with lunch, give a 45-minute presentation, and really illustrate the value of your plan. Okay. But most are surprised about the true value that someone could receive from LAGERS. So if this is an example with a starting salary of $32,000 with 2% annual salary increases every year. So that means they retire with a little over $50,000 average salary, 25 years of service. And our middle benefit program, the L7, and that's a 1.5% multiplier for calculation. Okay. The contributions typically for this are going to be, if they start at that $32,000 to $50,000, it's going to be somewhere around $38,000 in total. And that's if they're contributing for all 25 years of their service. If they live 20 years into retirement, they would have received $378,503 1 month at a time. But in total, we would have paid that to that person over that 20 years. And over a 30-year retirement, we would have paid $567,754. Okay. And that's 1 month at a time, but over 30 years, that's what they would have received from us in total. And that doesn't include any cost of living adjustments either. Okay. So significant dollar values in terms of total. But if I were to tell you to identify a briefcase with 400,000 and a briefcase with 500,000 and tell me which one has the 500, which one has the 400, it'd be difficult for us to do because it's just going to look like stacks of cash to us. Okay. So again, that's more or less just saying a lump sum of money. We don't fully understand that value because that's just not the world we live in. The world we live in is our paychecks usually. And that's, I mean, so the reality is that's the world we live in, because when you go to a car sales lot and you try to buy a car, which these days that's even harder to do because there's hardly any cars on the lots. But when you go to try and buy a car, typically what's the first question that a salesperson asks you? What's your monthly? That's what they care about because that's what you care about. You care about making that monthly payment. Now, whether that's right or wrong, whether you don't think you should have car payments and accumulate debt and whatnot, that's for you to determine in your finances. But the reality is that's how people think. So if we were to try and compare that, this is not necessarily what this is this is comparing the same sort of contributions to an investment account. So if you had the same retiree with a $51,000 salary, 25 years of service, that starting salary at $32,000 with a 4% contribution for their entire career, it assumes that this person would get 7.25% annual return, which is significantly higher than most folks could get. That primarily is because the S&P long-term has generated around a 6.5 return. And most human beings don't have the ability mentally to be able to just put their money 100% in the market and lose value, how the market can lose value. Because usually when the market goes down, people take their money out and then they put it back in at the wrong times. So they're not actually generating the massive return that they could get from a low within the market when it climbs back up. So 5% is about the average. But anyway, we used 7.25 for this, and we used a L1 benefit program. Okay, so in an investment account, if you save 4% per year with a 7.25% salary, you would have in the investment account, you'd have $126,720. And with the lowest level of LAGERS benefit, which is our 1% program, over a 20-year retirement, you would have received nearly double, $252,335, 1 month at a time. And that's only for 20 years. If the person lived 30, the dollar amount would be larger. Okay. So that's something that we can help you illustrate. Specifically, what we really do and it's not illustrated in this presentation, but on the lunch break, what we do is I will take, based on your level of benefits, based on your subdivision's average salary, okay, I will produce what a projected total value would be of your benefit. And then I pick the 25-year retirement number, whatever the number is that a person would have received over 25 years. And then I say, let's assume we didn't have LAGERS. So you didn't have it at all, and you had to save this money on your own. So your employer wasn't providing this benefit, you had to provide it on your own, how much would you need to save out of your paycheck from date of hire to date of retire to accumulate the same value of that 25-year retirement? Okay. And that typically produces a number around 20 to 30% of their paycheck. And nobody's willing to give up a third or a fourth or even a fifth of their paycheck towards their retirement. And that usually, when I say those numbers in front of a group of employees, especially young employees, they're usually a little shocked. They're usually like, wow, that's pretty significant. It's like, yes, that's right. It is that significant. And that is just how significant this benefit is to your future. But if an employee were to want to produce an equal value to that L1, lowest level of benefits, the employee would either have to have contributed, would have to have contributed 9.2% of salary, or contribute 4%, but earn an annual return of 12.4%. That's unrealistic. Savings and returns would have had to have been consistent. So consistently either 9.2 or consistently 9.2 with a 7.25% return, or 4 with a 12.4%. The salary must trend upward every year to produce that equal value, and the employee must make great investment decisions. And at the end of the day, you know, the lion's share of employees, myself included, aren't investment experts, but we might be experts in other areas, and that are good for serving, in my case, serving our members, and then and some of the employees, it's serving the citizens, right? So, you know, I think that just drives home just how valuable the plan is, not only for you as a administrator, potentially, or even a member, but also for that employee. Okay. Okay. So we also, one of the things we use to communicate benefits is we talk about salary replacement, because remember how I said 80% is our number. Well, you can easily, 80% is kind of our goal, right? So you can easily find or calculate what percentage of income will be replaced by loggers. It's an easy calculation. All you have to do is determine what your multiplier is, which you probably know what it is. If you don't, you can contact us and we can tell you. But they range between 1% and 2.5%. 2.5 is only for non-Social Security subdivisions. Otherwise, the highest you can go is 2. But the way you do the math is you take your multiplier times the number of years either someone has worked or someone plans to work. Okay. So if someone plans to work 25 years in public service and you have the 1% multiplier, take 1% times 25, that gives you 25% of your pre-retirement income replaced in guaranteed income from loggers. Now, 80 is our goal. So you've got a gap to fill there with Social Security and savings. Okay. If you have the 1.5% multiplier, take that times 25, and that's going to be 37.5% of your pre-retirement income replaced in guaranteed monthly payments from loggers. You still have a gap there, but your gap is significantly less, because you're going to have Social Security, again, is going to provide 25 to 40%. And so if it provides like 30%, then you need to fill a gap of 13.5% of your pre-retirement income throughout retirement by having a savings account. Okay. And a retirement savings plan. That would be the best way to put it. If you have a higher multiplier, the higher the percentage. Also, the more years of service you have, the higher the percentage. So if you went 30 years at that 1.5% program, then you're going to be looking at 45%. Okay. So just be considering that. Obviously, the longer a person works, the larger the percentage is. The larger the percentage provided by loggers, the less necessity, the smaller the gap you're going to have for your savings need. Okay. Okay. Final piece of the puzzle. Haven't received any questions. So again, if you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A section. All you got to do is scroll to the bottom of the screen. There's a little button called Q&A. Click it, type in the question. I'll answer it as it comes in. And when we talk about questions, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to what we're talking about today. It can be anything, loggers related, of course. Okay. So what tools do you have? Well, there's My Loggers. Okay. It's a wonderful retirement planning tool. It allows for employees to do several estimates and save them. You can also apply for your benefit online. Right now, there are more estimates completed online than by Logers staff, which is pretty crazy considering the amount of estimates that we produce just for virtual seminars alone. But there are more being done on my Logers than being completed by staff. Okay. We have monthly webinars. Okay. This is one. And now it's not about 2 to 3 each month. It's more like 4 to 5. It might ramp back to 2 to 3 more because we feel like we probably oversaturated a little bit. So, and that was primarily because we were coming out of COVID in 21. So we maintain that same schedule. And I think we're going to kind of rein it back just a tad, just because our attendance numbers have been down on our webinars. So we're probably going to rein it back just a little, but you probably won't notice much of a difference. And there's a ton of different topics. One of them, these are more like this one's more of an employer related topic, right? It's about how to communicate those benefits and get the value out of the plan. We have things that are just understanding your Logers benefits. We have a virtual pre-retirement seminar that we do twice a month. You have like Logers disability and survivor benefits, leaving Logers covered employment, monthly reporting, all those topics. All included, all mixed, all in the mix of our event schedule. Make sure that you check out our website on our events calendar to look at all of our upcoming web events and in-person events as well. But the Logers website, so it is mobile friendly. It's a really great resource for you to access information about your benefits and your employees' benefits. There's not a single thing that a member could. There's not a single thing there's nothing, let me put it this way. Everything that a person would want to know about their benefit is on our website. And it's not in like a PDF format. They've got to download it and print it and all that. It's all just web format. So they can go on there and search and find the information that they need within the website. That's a really, really great resource for you. And of course, one of our more, the online side of things is we have a blog. We're on all of the major social media channels, and we have a video channel on Vimeo. And those are all really great resources for you. But a really great resource is in-person learning. And those can be done in a number of different ways. So we have regional events. So we have we're just finished up our HR meetings. You actually, as an employer contact, will receive an email probably tomorrow that says, hey, if you missed the HR meeting, we're doing a webinar of the same meeting on next Wednesday. So just so you know, you'll get an invite for that. But we have a whole bunch of regional meetings for employers. You've got HR meetings and employer rate meetings, and those might be changing as well over the next year or two, just trying to figure those things out a little bit as well. But then we also have regional pre-retirement seminars. We have regional retiree meetings. And we have our annual conference. So, but on-site presentations. So we can come on site to your subdivision, and even if it's for 4 people. Now, if it's for only 4 people, typically we're going to try to do it while we're in the area, not necessarily a special trip, because there's only 3 of us, myself included, on the team that do the field work. So being limited in our resources and our time, we try to make good use of the time. But if you're a smaller subdivision and you've only got 4 or 5 employees and you're like, hey, we need you to come and stop in and say, hey, we can absolutely do that. We'll just have to find a time when we're in the region. Okay. But we'll come, if you have a benefits fair, we'll come to do that. Just make sure you get on our calendar in advance, because those are in high demand. Early and mid-career lunch breaks. So we will come and do on-site presentations for your early and mid-career employees, particularly your new hires. And we'll give them just an overview of how the benefit works, really drive home the value of the benefit and how to plan around it. We can do management benefit communication training. So if you have a management team at your city or subdivision, we can train them on how to properly communicate their Logers benefits, because if you're a large enough organization, your management folks are your front line to retention or potentially exit, right? If they're not, they could be the reason folks are leaving, obviously, but the other could be the reason that people are leaving is because this manager doesn't do a good enough job communicating about the financial benefits that they get from Logers, or just communicating and trying to retain those employees. We'll come and do a board and council presentation if you need us to. Primarily, we won't come unless we're invited. But the big thing about the board and council presentations is If you have a new council and you want us to educate them on just the benefits that you provide and how valuable those are for the city's ability to recruit and retain, and just do an overview of that, we can do that. If you're looking to make changes to your benefits and you want us to help communicate that to them, we can do that. We're not going to sell it. We're going to tell them the good and the risks. Okay. Or if your board has an issue with anything and they'd like someone to come and answer some questions for them, we're happy to provide that as well. We're also at associations. We attend a lot of different associations across the state. And if you are a member of any statewide association and you think that a loggers presentation would be something that would be valuable to the members of that association, reach out. If we can fit it in the calendar, we'd be happy to come and speak at your meetings. And then of course we have retiree link meetings across the state as well. So lots of in-person opportunities, lots of virtual and web opportunities for you to educate yourself, and also for you to assist in educating your employees and the members. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have for today. If you do have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and leave the webinar open for the next couple of minutes. We've gone about what I expected, about the 35-40 minutes. So aside from that, if you do have questions, feel free to call us Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. We're happy to help. But thanks again for coming, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Well, pretty much everyone has exited the webinar, so I'm going to go ahead and end it for now. Again, if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of us. Feel free to call us or email us. Have a great